Ugh, this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but food safety has been quite an issue. Spinach testing positive for listeria, cantaloupe fruit packs contaminated with salmonella, and contaminated cinnamon causing kids' applesauce pouches to contain high levels of lead. Now each year, millions of pounds of contaminated produce are recalled, which is actually more than I ever realized. The worst year was 2021 with over 13 million pounds recalled. Thankfully, you have the power to reduce the likelihood that you're directly affected by these recalls. As the new year draws closer, this is a great time to make a resolution to start a homestead in 2024. Homesteading can change your health for the better, help you establish a rewarding relationship with nature, and prepare you for the unknown. And that takes us to our first reason of why you should start homesteading. Now, it's far too easy to fall into that rut of feeling comfortable. The feeling of comfort is just an illusion, and it's really the culprit that causes complacency and laziness. Now, maybe you have a stable job with a good income and you just buy all the things that you need, and that's fine and dandy. But what happens if a link in that chain breaks? When it comes to employment, nothing is a guarantee in life. No job is a sure thing, and a good income can vanish at any time due to unforeseen circumstances. However, the one thing that can never be taken away from you is the knowledge you gain as you become more self-sufficient. Knowledge is power, and that has never been truer when it comes to having the knowledge to provide for yourself or family by growing your own produce, raising your own meat, preserving what you've grown, and using what you've grown to make great comfort foods or generating your own income if you choose to do so. Self-sufficiency can pay off outside of the garden as well. Learning how to do your own basic repairs in and around your home can save all kinds of money. The less that we rely on others and depend more on ourselves, the less affected we become by market volatility, which brings us to reason number 2. Now, the more we rely on others, the more money that we spend. And the more money that we spend on things we could have been doing for ourselves, and should have been really, at a fraction of the cost, the more that we're robbing ourselves of income that we could be using to treat ourselves or our families. Maybe you're in need of a new vehicle, or maybe you would just like to get away for a while and treat yourself or your family to a much needed vacation. The point is, the more we rely on our government and the help of others, the more our savings becomes affected. When the availability of goods and services is reduced, prices increase. Likewise, when wages increase, so do the cost of goods and services that cover those wages. And then there was the bird flu, which led to a low supply of eggs that could not satisfy demands, causing egg prices to reach unimaginable prices everywhere. However, we can help ease such effects of inflation by making choices like raising chickens, growing gardens, learning how to make minor repairs, and a whole lot more. Therefore, the more that you can provide for yourself, the more you can reduce the negative consequences of undesirable market changes. And that brings us to reason number 3. The recent pandemic that we experienced severely crippled our economy and our social lives. With a far-reaching shutdown on many of our supply lines, we were left in a state of very low supply that was not able to match high consumer demands. And many of us experienced several shortages on commonly purchased groceries throughout the country. Even if you were able to find what you were looking for, the average cost of all those goods had increased significantly. And with our last round of inflation, costs have risen even more. With the increased prices of goods, leaving any grocery store with a full cart of groceries costing under $250 is almost impossible, and that's only for 2 people for a week's worth of supplies. Now, if another pandemic were to ever hit, I can promise you that things won't be any better or easier the next time around. So don't wait for another pandemic to hit before you finally make a choice to do something about it. Seeds are cheap, and you can grow nearly an endless supply of produce for a year without spending obscene amounts of money. Now, I'm not promising you a huge pile of savings on your grocery bill, because there's other things that we buy besides produce and meat that are still expensive. But remember, if you decide to sell anything that you grow, you'll see a much larger return. Furthermore, you don't have to worry about empty shelves when it comes to food, and you don't have to worry about risking getting yourself sick where large numbers of people tend to accumulate for a common purpose. You also don't have to worry about those people that pick a grape out of a bag, that sample the grape, and then not even buy the pack of grapes. So you don't have to worry about contaminants being spread from others who may have touched the produce you purchased. And that takes me to reason number 4. Now, this is by far my biggest and my favorite reason for starting a homestead. The way crops and animals are grown for our consumption is really less than ideal. Now, I get that it has to be done to keep up with our ever-growing population and the demand for food, but I honestly believe that it's a major contributor to more people developing cancers and other medical conditions. Many of our grain crops have been genetically modified to be Roundup ready, which means that the crop can be sprayed post-emergence to kill weeds and not kill the crop itself. Now, the thing about glyphosates, which is what Roundup is that it's a systemic herbicide, which means it accumulates and remains in the cells of a plant. Even if sprayed before any seed production occurs, the end product still contains trace amounts of glyphosate. And it's actually kind of weird, but the EPA has even approved acceptable rates of glyphosates in the food that we consume. However, there are very few studies that actually detail the full effects of what glyphosate consumption can do to the human body. Now maybe in occasional trace amounts, the body can cope, but nearly every processed food item contains some form of grain byproduct. Even if we don't eat a lot of processed foods, the animals that we consume are raised with the same grains and therefore ingesting the glyphosates as well. Now, even worse, most of the meat that we purchase in supermarkets has been grown with the use of hormones to speed up growth and increase production. Now, during a recent Christmas gathering with Rikki's family, one of her cousins and we had a little conversation, and he was telling me about one of his friends who took their 8-year-old daughter to the doctor. Now, they didn't know this at the time, but they took her there because she had begun puberty and already had her first period. Really concerned, the parents asked the doctor if there was any reason to worry about what was going on, and the doctor simply said that this is quite normal, and it will continue happening at earlier ages due to the hormones used to boost livestock growth and production, which then interacts with the naturally produced hormones in our own bodies. And finally, we're on to our 5th reason. Now, in addition to knowing where your food came from and how it was grown, even if all you ever do is just grow a small garden, you will learn to appreciate and develop a deeper connection with nature. And taking a moment to sit back in your garden as you admire the fruits of your labor, the birds chirping, the warm sun on your skin, and a gentle summer breeze can be very therapeutic and help alleviate stress. This is also a great chance to get your family involved, like we did. We spent numerous hours together bonding while working toward common goals like building our greenhouse and preserving the food that we grew over the course of the summer. This type of bonding experience can be very beneficial, especially if you have young children. Most kids love to get dirty anyways, so let them play in the dirt with you and let them learn to appreciate nature and the ways that it can provide for them. Not only is it a great way to teach them about the cycle of life, but it's a perfect opportunity to get them away from the electronic devices and teach them important life skills that they can carry with them forever. Maybe one day they'll even start a homestead of their own, or carry on the legacy that you built together. Now, if you're still hesitant about starting a homestead, I get it. It might sound a little bit overwhelming. Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes. But that's why in the next video of this series, we're going to discuss the 10 most common mistakes that new homesteaders make so we can get you started out on the right track and set up for success. From garden to home, you're not in this alone. Make sure you come back to kick it into sticks, and we'll see you in the next one. For a week's worth of supplies. Maybe you're in need of a new vehicle, or maybe you would just like to get away for a while and treat yourself.